This government has us believe every February that this country's economy is going great guns. We are the fastest growing, most efficient global player. Everyone is getting employment. We're getting gas cylinders. We're getting electricity. We're getting pakka houses. This falsehood flies for about 8 to 10 months, and then the truth comes limping after it. And now we are in December, and the government says it needs another 3.26 lakh crores of additional funds over and above the budget estimate. The government and the ruling party coined the term pappu. You use it to denigrate, to signify extreme incompetence. Let me use the next few minutes to point out what the data, the statistics tell us as to who the actual pappu really is. NSO numbers were out yesterday. Industrial output has shrunk by 4% in October to a 26-month low. The manufacturing sector contracted 5.6%. Manufacturing is still the biggest generator of jobs. 17 of the industry sectors that make up the index of industrial production have recorded negative growth rates. Forex reserves have fallen by $72 billion in under a year. The Honorable Finance Minister yesterday during question hour mentioned how apparently 50% of FII inflows into emerging markets are coming into India. Wonderful. But her colleague, the Minister of State for External Affairs, just last Friday, in response to a question in this very House, stated that almost 2 lakh people, 1,83,741 people, renounced their Indian citizenship in the first 10 months of 2022. This exodus in 2022 takes the total number of Indians renouncing Indian citizenship under this government in the past 9 years since 2014 to over 12.5 lakh people. This year has already seen more people giving up Indian citizenship than any single given year. High net worth individuals are willing to pay up to $1 million to get citizenship of Portugal, of St. Kitts, of Greece. Is this the sign of a healthy economic environment? Of a healthy tax environment? Who's the pappu now? There is an atmosphere of terror in this country with the sword of the Enforcement Directorate hanging over businessmen and high net worth individuals. The ruling party buys lawmakers for hundreds of crores, and yet members of the opposition represent 95% of lawmakers under investigation by the Enforcement Directorate. But forget politicians. They're tough. They can fend for themselves. Businessmen and high net worth individuals are soft targets. In the monsoon session, in response to a query from my honourable colleague from the JDU, Mr. Rajiv Ranjan Singh, the Finance Ministry informed this House that in the past 17 years, the ED has opened 5,422 investigations under the PMLA, but has convicted only 23 people. That is a conviction rate of a pathetic 0.5%. Since 2011, the ED has launched 1,600 investigations, 1,800 raids, and convicted only 10 people. In the supplementary demand for grants, I see that the government is asking for an additional 2,900 crores to buy land and ready-built accommodation, office accommodation for the Enforcement Directorate. The taxpayers, you and I, are paying for the ED's operations, for their prosecutions, for their investigations, for their foreign junkets. So do Parliament and public representatives have no right to ask this na khaunga, na khane dunga sarkar, who's presiding over the ED, why there is such a pathetic conviction rate of 0.5%? Is the ED's job only to harass people, or is it to actually track down and catch the perpetrators of financial crimes? What is this level of incompetence? Who's the pappu now? Members of the ruling party continue to spread falsehoods about the benefits of demonetization ad nauseum, with no regard to the actual data. You have not achieved the goals of a cashless digital economy. You have not achieved the goals of phasing out fake currency, even after 6 years of your dhamaka announcement. Currency in circulation has doubled from 18 lakh crores in November 2016 to 32 lakh crores in November 22. Cash management company CMS's cash index for ATM hit an all-time high this Diwali. Cash is still king. Demonetization did not achieve any of the 3 targets. Who's the pappu now?
It's the appropriation bill that demands for grants, but we are not the St. Stephen's College debating society. This is a political house. So when we are looking at the appropriation bill, when we are looking at the demand for grants, of course we will have a political debate. But today, I don't think anybody from the BJP is going to interrupt me. Because in the last 6 or 7 weeks, while late nights were spent watching World Cup football, afternoons were spent by me reading a 43-page document, a 43-page book, which they're all familiar with. As they speak of 2029, I want to speak of 2024, but before that of 2019. What is this document? Unfortunately, the rules of the House do not permit me to bring the document in here, but sir, it is here in case you need it for ready reference. I've taken some quotes from the document. And that document is the manifesto of the Bharatiya Janata Party 2019. That's only where I will be, nowhere beyond that. And the bill and the demand for grants. 12 or 13 quick references, no rhetoric, only on the facts. So the first one, quote, "We will continue to pursue federal governance by ensuring greater involvement of the states in all aspects of policy making," unquote. Page 25, manifesto promise number 10 of the BJP, federal governance. So 2 numbers for the finance minister, and I'm sure she will respond to all this tomorrow. The first one, when the BJP came to power in 2014, states were spending 46% more than the union government. In 2021-2022, my charge is states are not spending 46% more than the union government. They're spending 150% more than the union government. 2, 29 of the 98 bills passed before 2021 were anti-federal in nature. If you look at the bills, 29 of them went against federalism. Sir, I'm still on the point of federalism as mentioned in that manifesto. I'll make 4 quick points. My charge is that there is an economic blockade of the states. 1, sir, you said something very interesting. If you say something, you should back it up with documents. Yes. So as per Rule 266, under directions of the chairman earlier, number 37 and 39, I have placed this on the table with the necessary permissions. What are these 4 documents I'm placing today? 7 years ago, states have been burdened because the center cancelled schemes about 7 years ago. That document is here. One of those schemes was the backward region grant funds, and that simply means it was so important for the states had to continue the scheme, but the funding stopped. My second point, sir, they reduced the share of the center on many schemes. Simply put, if the scheme was, say, 65% from the center, 35% from the states were taken up to 50%, the center was brought down to 50%. There are all these examples in this document. One is the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. That's an example. The third one, sir, was the central sector scheme. Best example, Manrega. It's another point that the current Prime Minister didn't like Manrega in 2014. We are happy that he has a different point of view. We welcome that. And the fourth point on the economic blockade, and to this, with your permission, I'd like to thank a colleague who is now in Calcutta, Dr. Amit Mitra, who is very well known. So this is on the FRBM, the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management. And the Finance Minister is here, and I'm sure she will address this tomorrow. Sir, you gave the states, you took it up from 3.5%. This is borrowing as related to GDP. You took it up from 3.5, you took it up to 4%. Now this year you brought the state borrowing down to 3.5%. My limited point, when you took it up to 4%, 2 points. When you took it up to 4%, you laid some conditions on the states. For example, you said the state has to privatize electricity. No, that's anti-federal. You make some other points about urban bodies. So the point here is, sir, please bring it back, take it to 4%, and it has to be unconditional. That's a request from the House of the States. So I'm going back to this book, the 43-page book. I read now from page 25. So far we are going well because it's all in the, so no interruptions. Good.
And no interruptions.
No, so good, good, good.
Both sides.
Good. Sir, I quote, "We have set an example of inclusive federal governance through steps such as establishment of the GST Council, etc., etc." So there are many points to make on the GST Council. I would like to make just one, page 25. My point is, sir, cess, as it's in undergraduate economics, cess goes directly to the center. No sharing with the states. Right. This is an interesting figure, sir. In 2011, of the total percentage of gross tax revenue, 2011, 10% was cess. Guess the number now, sir. Cess being going only to the center. 26.7% is cess. How are the states being deprived? From 10, it's up to 26.7. So a quick point for the manifesto again. Which manifesto? BJP manifesto 2019. Quote, "We will also ensure implementation of the 14th Finance Commission's recommendations." 14th Finance Commission, purpose was good, but did it get served? This is page 25 of the Good Governance Manifesto. Divisible pool of taxes devised by the 14th Finance Commission and the 15th Finance Commission was 42% and 41%, give or take a percentage here and there. The state's share in central taxes is estimated to be just 30% of the gross tax revenue of the central government.
I have 6 points, and I'll deal with them briefly. In the supplementary demands for this year, the government is asking authorization for 3,25,756 crore as cash outgo. There is another 1,10,180 crore which will be additional expenditure but will be matched by additional savings, so we can leave that out. Out of the cash outgo, they are asking for defense capital expenditure for construction of strategic and border roads of 500 crore. Let me say at the outset, all of us grant you 500 crore. We will happily grant you more if necessary. Whatever is required for defense forces, whatever is required for capital expenditure for construction of strategic or border roads or buying equipment, we'll happily grant it because we know that it's for the national security. But I'll come to this point last. Before we grant, we want to raise a few questions. And I hope that before the bill is returned, the Honorable Finance Minister or anyone from government will answer those questions. Let me move on to my first 5 points. The first point is the GDP for 2022-23 at current prices, according to the budget estimates, was 258 lakh crore. 258 lakh crore assumes 11.1% nominal growth over last year's GDP at current prices. If the growth is 11.1% in current prices or nominal growth, I have only 2 small questions. What will be the inflation rate and what will be the real growth? I remember having asked this question when the budget discussion took place. We are now nearly 9 months into the financial year. I did not get an answer when the budget discussion took place. I sincerely hope I will get an answer. How does this 11.1% break up? What is the inflation and what is the real growth? Now, my second point is, if the Honourable Finance Minister and the government wish to spend 3,25,756 crore, we understand that there is a need for more expenditure. Now, where will the government find this 3,25,756 crore? As far as I know, there are only three ways. A, the government has already collected money in excess of the budgeted revenue receipts. They already have 3,25,786 crore, and they're coming to the House saying, I already have this money, I'm spending it. That's route A. Now, the second way is to borrow. You can borrow an additional 3,25,786 crore and say, I'm borrowing and I'm spending. There's a third way, a little more technical, but I'm sure the House will appreciate it. Government expects nominal growth to be more than 11.1% shown in the budget. If the nominal growth is more than 11.1%, the GDP will be more than 258 lakh crore. The denominator will rise. Therefore, you can borrow and spend another 3,25,786 crore without breaching the fiscal deficit of 6.4. My second question is, again, a very simple question. Does the government propose to take route A? It already has the money. Or it proposes to take route B? It will borrow more. Or it will take route C, that it expects the GDP to be higher and therefore the fiscal deficit will be met at 6.4%. I want a specific answer. Is it A or B or C? And I'm willing to be corrected, none of the above. I'm willing to accept even an answer, none of the above. Is it A or B or C, or none of the above? My third question is, this is a matter of some concern. According to the budget, the gross tax revenue is 27,57,820 crore. Of this, corporation tax, this was on corporates, is 7,20,000 crore. Income tax is 7 lakh crore. Now, if you do the proportions, you will find that corporate tax accounts for 26.1% of the gross tax revenue. When this government came into office in the previous year, 2013-14, the gross tax revenue was 11,55,838 crore, of which corporate tax was 3,93,677 crore. As a proportion, corporate tax in the gross tax revenue was 34%. Now, what does this mean? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm simply giving the numbers. It's for the House to decide whether this is the right path to take or the wrong path to take. The corporates contributed 34% of gross tax revenue. Today, the corporates are contributing 26% of gross tax revenue. Why has this great benefit been conferred to the corporates, that they contribute 8% less of the gross tax revenue? Who's contributing the others? The rest. The rest is contributed by income taxpayers, middle class, upper middle class, other income taxpayers, excise payers or GST payers, which is you and I, customs duty, which is passed on to the common people, cesses, taxes on petrol and diesel, that accounts today for 74%. Corporates are only contributing 26%. 9 years ago, corporates were contributing 34%. It is because this government has conferred a huge bounty on bonanza on corporates. Is that fair or not fair is for the House to decide. And after conferring this bounty, I hear the Honorable Finance Minister go to the FICCI, go to CII, go to Chambers of Commerce and say, please invest. Why are you not investing? In fact, in one meeting, I saw her say, quite legitimately, sort of mildly scolding them for not investing. If God is in his heaven, the BJP is in power, and everything is hunky-dory, and the climate is extremely propitiate for investment, why, despite conferring a huge bonanza on the corporate sector, why are they not investing? That's my question. Why are they not investing? Private investment is low, sluggish. Why are they not investing? If all is well, according to the government, why is the private sector not investing? Despite conferring an 8% bounty on the corporate sector. You know what this 8% means, sir? 8% of 27 crore will be almost 1% is 10% is 2.7 lakh crore. 8% will be about 2.5 lakh crore. 2.5 lakh crore is the bonanza conferred on the corporate sector, yet they are not investing. My question is, why? And I want an answer so that we can be enlightened why the private sector is not investing. My fourth point is, in 1990-91, GDP at constant prices was about 25 lakh crore. That is when, after that, liberalization started. In 12 years, this GDP doubled to 50 lakh crore. In 10 years, it doubled again to 98, 99 lakh crore. So the first time the GDP doubled was, it took 12 to 13 years. Second time, 10 years, it doubled. Now, technically, therefore, one would expect, and this is a fair expectation, a government that has been in power for nearly 9 years should double the GDP in 10 years. If we are able to double the GDP in difficult times, 91 to 2003-04, that period is attributable to Mr. Narasimha Rao's stewardship and Mr. Vajpayee's stewardship. And then we were able to double it again in 10 years under Dr. Manmohan Singh's leadership. This government should double it again in 10 years. If 100 lakh crore should have become 200 lakh crore or should become 200 lakh crore, in 23-24, when this government completes 10 years of government? Will it complete 200 lakh crore? I know the answer for myself, but I want the Honorable Finance Minister and the government to answer that for the benefit of the members. Will you be able to double the GDP which you inherited by the time you demit office in 10 years? If you are able to double the GDP, I salute you. I don't want to make any prediction. I don't want to be a doomsday prophet. I wish them well, but please answer my fourth question. Will you be able to double the GDP that you inherited by the time you demit office in 10 years? Very good. My fifth point is, this is something which the Honorable Finance Minister has spoken, so it's nothing new. Of the 4 engines of growth, government expenditure is robust, and much of the 3,25,786 crore will go into government expenditure, which is good. I only wish that the expenditure is efficient and the outcome is as good as the expenditure. But that is a different matter. But what about the other 3 engines of growth? We know that private investment is sluggish. Just see 2 graphs in the Indian Express today. Private investment is sluggish. They are certainly not summoning their animal spirits. I don't know why it's called animal spirits. They should be human spirits. But somehow we have got used to calling it animal spirits of investors. Whatever spirits, as long as it's not alcoholic spirits. Why are they not summoning their spirits to invest? We know it's down. Private consumption is down. You can't deny that. High-end items are being sold. Mercedes-Benz cars and BMW cars. That is being sold. But what about consumption by the poor and the middle class? If consumption is good, why should 1/3 of our children be stunted? Why should over half of our women be anemic? These are all accepted statistics in government publications. Government's National Family Welfare Survey says these numbers. So consumption is low, except the high-end items of the very, very rich. Consumption is low. And the 4th engine, exports are low. The trade deficit is increasing. Our trade deficit with China alone is $73 billion. $73 billion with one country. Our trade deficit, the numbers are there in today's Indian Express. The graph of exports and imports and the gap known as trade deficit is higher. So if 3 of your 4 engines are not growing, why? There must be an explanation, there must be an answer. And has the government taken into account that many of the world's leading economies are headed towards a recession today? Britain is in a recession. Germany is in recession. The US is in a technical recession, except that their employment growth is robust. France and Italy may escape recession. Japan is, as you know, is quite happy with modest growth. China is growing at only 3.3% this year. Therefore, many of the countries are heading towards a recession. Leading economies are heading towards a recession. Welcome, Mr. Chairman. If many of the countries are headed towards leading towards a recession, my question is simple, without blaming anyone. Does the government take into account, reckon the fact that the world's leading countries are heading towards a recession? If they are leading towards a recession, and if 3 of your engines are sputtering, how do you propose to deal with the situation? How do you propose to stimulate growth? This is my 5th question. Sir, you have come when I'm completing my 5 questions, but there is still one left, and that's the most important one. And I hope that...
I'm so glad the most important is kept.
I said at the first that I will keep it in the hope that you will come at that time.
Mr. Chidambaram is very senior. I claim to be senior to many, but he is the one acknowledged more senior.
Now, I said at the opening, the government is asking 500 crore for defense capital expenditure for strategic roads. And I said, without a dissent, without a murmur, the government will gladly grant the government 500 crore or even more. But I want answers to a few questions. These are strategic and border roads in the northeast, is what the supplementary grant says. Now we know who is the threat in the northeastern border, northern and eastern border. So our questions are very simple questions, which we are asking again and again. Has China conceded anything on hot springs? Have the Chinese agreed to discuss the friction points in the Doklam Junction and in the Depcham Plains? You are creating more buffer zones. What does a buffer zone mean? According to our information, a buffer zone means there will be a no petrol area. China will not petrol. India will not petrol. Does it mean that we are no longer petroling? This is a supplementary demand. Modi ji, you were 13 years finance minister. I can speak on any subject when the demand is there for money. You know the rule. I want to know.
I'm sure anything and everything does not include anything and everything.
I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm asking questions.
No, I'll make only one suggestion. During your long career, you have had the occasion to hold very high positions. And by virtue of that situation, you are well in the know of governance issues. Any diversion,
I'm not diverting
or
on the subject.
even
I'm asking on strategic and border roads.
No, as long as it was on that,
That's all
it was fine.
That's all.
Sir, it went little beyond.
That's all I'm speaking on. That's all I'm speaking. Pointed questions. Pointed questions. Only on that point. Does it mean that we are no longer petroling in areas where we were petroling? Number four, I'm not yielding. Number 4, the US Defense Department spokesman has said, and our spokesman have also said, that there is massive building of infrastructure on the other side of the LAC, and equally our government is also building massive infrastructure on the other side. Now, what is this infrastructure on the other side? I don't want you to tell me what is the infrastructure on our side. That may be a defense secret. But what is the infrastructure that they are building on the other side? That your satellites will be capturing pictures. We know that they have built roads, bridges, settlements, helipads, communications. Now, please tell us, what is the massive infrastructure that China is building? And I don't want you to tell us what is the equally matching infrastructure that you're building on our side. I don't want you to tell us. And finally, I saw a video clip and I was quite happy of the Honorable Prime Minister meeting the President of China at Bali. And they were shaking hands.